a lot of time in the country of Israel, and it's been going on for decades right under our noses. And this is why the ruling class in America has failed us so horrendously, either by incompetence and inattention or intentionally. And I'm talking about Congress, I'm talking about our state legislatures, I'm talking about the executive branch, and yet, for the Democrat Party, this is probably all good, because the Democrat Party hates America. I think I read that somewhere. There was a report put out on December 19th of last year. By my calculation, that's less than a month ago. And it wasn't covered in the media. Now, why is that? It seems to be a very, very important report as far as I'm concerned. Well, part of the problem is the media spends 90% of their time trying to just trash Donald Trump and his supporters. The other 5% of its time, it spends on stupid stuff. But this is a report, foreign funding of U.S. academia. Now, wouldn't you think that would be compelling? I mean, if you're a news organization, you don't even have to do any research. All you have to do is read. Well, maybe they read it and they chose to ignore it. Let me tell you what's going on here in this report. This is crucial. It says foreign nations have donated $43 billion to American universities since 1990. $43 billion. Well, what are they buying? Well, we know what they're buying. Minds, hearts, and souls. The Department of Education published a report in October 2020 that highlighted funding from foreign adversaries was massively underreported, quote unquote. The Trump administration was trying to get its hands around this, not the current administration. And it highlighted funding from foreign adversaries. The conclusions were drawn from investigations into the underreporting of millions of dollars worth of gifts and contracts from communist China, fascistic Russia, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar at 12 prestigious American universities. According to a recent study, higher levels of campus anti-Semitism and a decline in free speech norms are associated with this unreported foreign funding of American universities from authoritarian governments.
I'm here in the streets of San Francisco to report on a controversial new trend that I believe will change America.
An astounding 300% increase in anti-Semitism at U.S. universities has been linked to $13 billion in undisclosed foreign funds from 2014 to 2019. The undisclosed donations have been made by governments in the Middle East, China, and Russia. Harvard, Yale, Georgetown, they were among the top recipients of concealed donations. According to the report, the majority of schools have business dealings with Huawei, a Chinese tech giant connected to the Chinese Communist Party. According to early findings, most of the 12 schools that they cite have had financial dealings with Huawei, the Chinese tech giant that some U.S. officials say is a threat to national security. And at least one had ties directly to the Chinese Communist Party. You would think they were all run by Hunter Biden. It goes on. Others had deals with Russian government and institutions in Saudi Arabia and Qatar. The 12 schools revealed $6.5 billion in foreign funding that had previously gone unreported after coming under federal scrutiny. A recent study found unreported foreign funding of U.S. universities from authoritarian governments is linked to higher levels of campus anti-Semitism and a decline in free speech norms. Unreported foreign funding of the U.S. universities by Qatar, that's key. The tiny little nothing nation. Oil was found under it, and it is using its money to promote terrorism, to buy the minds of our people in our own schools, and to buy politicians in this country, and I might add, not only in the Biden administration, the Obama previous administration, but Republicans too. Republicans too. Unreported foreign funding of universities by Qatar and other authoritarian governments is linked to higher levels of campus anti-Semitism and a decline in free speech norms. $13 billion in undisclosed foreign funds has been linked to a staggering, as I said, 300% rise in anti-Semitism. The Institute for the Study of Global Anti-Semitism and Policy Studies, based on earlier research that discovered that Middle Eastern governments, as well as China and Russia, had made billions of dollars in undisclosed donations to U.S. universities from 2014 to 2019 in violation of federal U.S. law. Receipt of undocumented money was associated with increase of campus anti-Semitism, I said, and this relationship was larger when the undocumented funding came from Middle Eastern authoritarian states. Receipt of undocumented money was associated with increased levels of campus anti-Semitism, and this relationship was larger when the undocumented money was added in. Qatar was the largest single donor, providing $2.7 billion in concealed funds, while Harvard, Yale, and Georgetown were among the top recipients of concealed donations. A sizable portion of this $13 billion in unreported donations from overseas nations between 2014 and 2019 came from mostly Marxist, Islamist, and fascist regimes. Think about that. Over 200 universities in this country, including elite institutions like Carnegie Mellon, Cornell, Harvard, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, have been accused of raking in $13 billion in undocumented contributions from foreign governments. And a sizable portion of those funds were said to be donated from authoritarian regimes all over the world. Again, they mentioned Qatar, Saudi Arabia, China, the UAE. That's a report from the Network Contagion Research Institute. A May 2023 report from the American-Israeli Cooperative Enterprise found the Arab countries like Qatar, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Kuwait, and Egypt were the top donors to American universities. According to a study published in 2022 by the National Association of Academics in the United States, a study that did not cause too much noise at the time, in the period between 2001 and 2021, precisely after the 9/11 attacks, the Qataris donated a whopping $4.7 billion to universities in the United States. The recipients, however, did not report part of the money received as required by federal law. Again, Qatar is the largest foreign donor to American academia.
Hello, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. How are you doing? How are you doing? Yes, I am back. Happy New Year for everyone. Sunday Talk with Jamal. This is the first Sunday Talk with Jamal. Now, if you didn't see my video I posted Sunday morning Thai Talk, you need to go see it because I was explaining some things. Let me pin this message. Thank you, Shane Terry. Hello, 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 hello. Miss Tammy, I see you over there, Miss Tammy 621. Hello, 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 hello. Whoa. And hello, Miss Hurley McAdams out there in old Burlington, North Carolina. V Long, One Way, Miss Sin Napier, still praying for you in your time of loss, still praying. Minnie's World, Pencil Sticks. All right, y'all. If you take a look, we made it to 3,000. 3,000 people like the page. You know, I don't say followers because who only has followers? Let's see how many people been watching me and know what I'm going to say. Why don't I say I have followers? Who is the only person that has a follower? Who is it? Who is the only that has a follower? Who is it, if you don't mind? Who is the only person that has followers? All right, Miss Many Worlds know why. That's right, Lisa LeBrick, she said it. Jesus Christ, who is God Almighty. He is the only one that has followers. Me, I got people who like the page. Anybody that comes here, they like the page. I don't have followers. So, we have 3,000 people who have liked Rumble. That's great. That is good. Excuse me. Now, In order for me to have Friday Talk with Jamal next week, we have to be out of where we're at right now Friday, okay? We will officially be moving back into the house. Technically, the furniture's been delivered, the new furniture has been delivered, and so we're cleaning, putting things up, so Lord willing, live and see it. Next Friday will be the first night we spend the night back in our house in a year and 4 months. November the 19th, 2022 is when my house caught fire. And been a lot of crazy stuff going on. People didn't get stuff right. So we are will be the first day. Now, I want to do live streams every night. I want to do them, okay? I want y'all to listen to me. I want to do them. However, I won't be able to. I have to move stuff, tear the studio down, the green screen. All this has to go back. But before I can put it back, I got to do a lot of cleaning. I can't do that cleaning in 1 week. So, starting tomorrow, okay? Hello, Miss Tammy Ferguson. Starting tomorrow, I don't know who has pneumonia. I have been fighting off pneumonia. Michelle Farrell Lionberg is on the prayer list. Can't have you over there fighting off pneumonia and you ain't on the prayer list. That's Michelle. Holloman. No, that's Patricia Holloman. That's Michelle Farrell Michelle Lionberg. Okay, there we go. Michelle Lionberg. Now, I don't know if I'm going to do a show tomorrow, Tuesday, Wednesday. I don't know. I may not. Okay? Because I still have to work my job, get off work, and we got to do a lot in this house, and we still got 2 little girls and things got to go. So, I can guarantee I won't do a show tomorrow night. I'll go live, like looking at the phone like that, but studio stuff, what I'm going to try to do, I may leave it up, I don't know. But I got to put this house together. We got to put this house together. It's full attack mode to get everything back up in this house, okay? So if I don't have a show tomorrow night, you know why. It's because I'm working in the house cleaning it. It's some stuff we saved that has soot on it. So we got to get some air sprayers and spray the soot out of the form electronics that we tried to keep after the fire. Hopefully it will work, because my wife does not want me to put, if it smells like soot and she doesn't like it, she does not want it up in the room with my daughters. And she's made that clear. The answer is no. She's told me ain't happening. So we got to check the televisions and stuff, because the people who did our demolition and supposed to be moving the stuff never go to Caremaster. Please, if you, Miss Hurley McAdams, you live here in North Carolina. If you know anybody, do not go to Caremaster. You will be horribly disappointed. They are the absolute absolute worst. Let me say that again. They are the absolute worst. So, if you can, please, 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 just know it's not my fault. So we won't be, I may not be going live. So, why am I seeing this clown up on my thing for? Who is this? Who is this guy? Sometimes I wonder, how do these people get into your comment section? Just because somebody I like follow you don't mean I want to see you. Don't recommend this. Oh, I don't know who this person is. See less often. I don't know who this clown is. So that's what's going on. Hello everybody over there on Twitter. If you're on Twitter, hello, how you doing? But that's what's going on, okay? That is what's going on. Let me check. It's going to be difficult. Yes, it is. But it's going to be fun, too. So let me check, make sure. All right, there you go there. PayPal. There you go there. All right, everybody. Okay. So, welcome everybody to Mount of Jamal, the first Sunday talk with Jamal this Sunday. Of course. Well, as you know, yesterday was January the 6th, and of course everybody lose their mind in the Democrat Party. I can't believe that you stood up and fought back against those ruffians of January the 6th. This clown actually was crying on national TV about January the 6th. I don't care about this clown, and I don't care if he is black. Oh, that's right there. I don't care. He's sitting up there doing all this crime. Number one, January the 6th was a mostly peaceful protest. Did some people get out of hand? Yeah. But it's not as many that got out of hand during the Summer of Love 2020. Where did you think many of them got that nothing will happen if they did it? They got the idea because people watch burning and looting for a whole year and nothing was done. Now you tell me all of a sudden you care? You care about violent protests? We was watching stuff burn and you called it a mostly peaceful protest. So MSNBC doing this is just downright comical.
Today, when a violent mob instigated by a president who lost the 2020 election, steps of the Capitol and desecrated its hallowed halls. Theirs was a failed attempt to overturn the results of a free and fair election. A failed attempt to disrupt a sacred tradition that has made American democracy a model for attempt to disrupt a sacred tradition, steps of the Capitol, and desecrated its hallowed halls. Theirs was a failed attempt to overturn the results of a free and fair election.
How you gonna be a police officer and walk over there and punch somebody in the face? Somebody that was not close to you, you walked over and punched them in the face. I want you to look at that. I don't know if MSNBC realized what they showed.
Attempt to overturn the results of a free and fair election. Attempt to overturn the results of a free and fair election. A failed attempt to disrupt a sacred tradition that has made American democracy a model for the world for 248 years. The peaceful transfer of power. January 6, 2021 marked a new beginning, a new fight in safeguarding the American experiment. I'm Jonathan Capehart. This is the Saturday Show. And here we are, 3 years after the insurrection, and we're still living with the consequences of that day, the persistent threats to our democracy. With Republican voters casting their first presidential primary ballots this month, and with Donald Trump continuing to hold a commanding lead, even expanding lead in the polls, we're faced with the possibility, the startling possibility, that the man impeached for inciting the rioters on January 6th could be elected again.
And that's called a democratic system. When you tell the American people that somebody did something and the American people say, we don't believe you, that's called a democracy. That's called a democratic republic. What you're not showing, which I'll get to later. But let's get rid of the first 3 minutes of this crap.
The man who claimed the insurrectionists had love in their hearts, who referred to January 6th as a beautiful day, and who vowed to pardon the rioters criminally charged in connection with the violence, people he now calls hostages. Yesterday, in his first campaign.
That's right. Donald Trump is calling many of the J6ers hostages. And rightfully so. And the media can't take and deal with the fact that Americans and others aren't playing their game. Don't believe them. They don't believe them.
Campaign speech of 2024, President Biden issued a warning about what's at stake.
There's one simple vision hack anyone can use to improve vision, so you can say goodbye to your optometrist for good.
Trump began his 2024 campaign by glorifying the failed violent insurrection on our.
What? What did he say? I'm just saying, what did the man say again?
2024 campaign by glorifying the failed violent insurrection on our Capitol. The guy who claims law and order sows lawlessness and disorder. Trump's not concerned about your future, I promise you. Trump is now promising a full-scale campaign of revenge and retribution, his words. This is the first national election since January 6th. Insurrection placed a dagger at the throat of American democracy since that moment. We all know who Donald Trump is. The question we have to answer is, who are we?
Americans who are broke. Americans who don't have anything hardly left. We're Americans who are watching our borders being flooded. We are Americans who have watched you, you clown, you buffoon, you stroke-ridden piece of trash of a president, Joe Biden. We have watched you lie. We have watched you allow your son to clean up big bags of cash from around the world. We are people who just want things to get back to where you found them. We're Americans who just want things to get back to where you found them 2021. Grocery bills out of control. Constantly trying to tear down statues. Now they are trying to remove William Penn's. I want y'all to realize this. Joe Biden is taking down the statue of William Penn to try to make Native Americans feel comfortable on a day honoring Pennsylvania, the state that's named after him. Did you hear what I said? The state, well, hey, Miss Barbara Kirkendall, the state that is named after William Penn, Joe Biden is taking the statue down. I want you to remove that. Biden removes William Penn's statue from historic Pennsylvania Park, an inclusive makeover to show more Native Americans. I am sick and tired. Joe Biden will make you hate people of other races. Joe Biden will make you hate people of other races. Okay, close. All right, I thought I had it. Joe Biden will literally make you hate people of other races. If you want to know why there's so much racism, it's because of people like Joe Biden. He makes you hate people of other races. He makes you hate them. Look at this. Biden administration removing William Penn statue in rehabilitation of park commemorating founding of Pennsylvania. Biden administration removing William Penn statue in rehabilitation of park commemorating founding of Pennsylvania. The man who founded the state and paid for it, his statues being moved. New National Park Services announced they will be removing a statue of William Penn, William Penn from a Philadelphia park commemorating his founding of Pennsylvania, situated at his former home. The rehabilitation proposal for Welcome Park is meant to provide a more welcoming, accurate, and inclusive experience for visitors. National Park Service said in a news release it includes expanding interpretation of the Native American history of Philadelphia and was developed in collaboration with representation from the Haudenosaunee, the Delaware Nation, the Delaware Tribe of Indians, the Shawnee Tribe, and Eastern Shawnee Tribe of Oklahoma. The park is named for the ship Welcome, which Penn took to Philadelphia in 1682. The park was established 300 years later. The call for public feedback on X, the platform formerly known as Twitter, has resulted in more than 500 comments. Leave the statue right where it is. Defund and disband the National Park Service. There have always been two types of people in the world: the conquerors and those who get conquered. Native Americans were conquerors, and then sometimes they got conquered. It's the circle of life and emotion. It's the circle of life. I will be honest with you. This makes me, I hope and I pray, if Donald Trump becomes president, if he becomes president, I hope he does a speech straight for white, straight Christian men. There needs to be a speech for white, straight Christian men. No one else but white, straight Christian men. That is it. No one else needs to be there. They need to make sure they do that so we can go back and thank people like William Penn, Sir Walter Raleigh, people who chartered and took their money to charter explorations, and the states were named after them. This is disgusting, but this is what Joe Biden wants.
The president is right. And the answer to that question from some in the Republican Party is frightening. According to a new Washington Post University of Maryland poll, Republicans are now less likely to believe that insurrectionists were mostly violent and less likely to believe Trump bears responsibility than they were in 2021.
Whoa.
To believe Trump bears responsibility. Washington Post University.
Rioters, mostly peaceful, mostly violent, equally peaceful. That says 50% of Republicans believe it was mostly violent. I'm going to tell y'all something. You need to pay attention to that 50%. How many of that 50% will not vote for President Trump? Think about it. Think about that. How many of this 50% will not vote for President Trump? See, you have to read these things and read between the lines. I want to know how many in this field will not vote for President Trump out of that 50%. Because if we don't answer that question, if President Trump wins and we find out that out of that 50%, 20% won't vote for him, 20% out of that 50% won't vote for him, You need to read that. You need to read into that. I'm telling you, remember that number.
Maryland poll, Republicans are now less likely to believe that
by 4%. In 3 years, 4% of Republicans say it was mostly peaceful and equally peaceful. Only 4%.
insurrectionists were mostly violent and less likely to believe Trump bears
37% says he had a great deal. 16% says good amount. 18%, just some. 28% none. Right there, that shows you the Republicans that's not going to vote for President Trump. I want you to realize that 37% is what's supporting Ron DeSantis, Nikki Haley, Chris Christie. They do not, I don't believe we're going to vote for President Trump if he wins the nomination. So you need to keep an eye on that. That's going to come back. I'm telling you, that's going to come back.
responsibility than they were in 2021. That's an insult to the hundreds of men and women in law enforcement who fought valiantly before our eyes to uphold their oaths to serve and protect the Capitol against a mob incited by a commander-in-chief who violated his. In the days and weeks following the insurrection, 5 officers died. Officer Brian Sicknick, Officer Jeffrey Smith, Officer Howard Liebengood, Officer Gunther Hash.
Hold it. He just sat here and said, after January 6th, blah, blah, died, blah, blah, died. They were lying saying on January 6th, these people died. You see how the Democrat Party tells a lie. They don't stop telling the lie. They adjust it slightly. Excuse me. What you are seeing, the Democrat Party slightly adjust the lie. Not much, but enough to say, well, we didn't say people died. We're saying the day caused death, knowing the human brain is going to associate that day with their deaths. See, they was telling us 5 officers died on January 6th. Officers died on January 6th. People died on January 6th. Now the tape's been released. They dialing that back. Office, nobody died. Now, up. Let's go take it back up. But keep the lie. They're doing that real time. They are literally doing this real time, people. They're literally doing this real time. I'm showing you how the Democrat Party get away with lies. You keep it. People died on January the 6th. People died as a result of January. The deaths of January the 6th, right there. The deaths of January the 6th, January the 6th related deaths. Come on, crank it back closer. The deaths that's a result of January the 6th. Okay, got it. And that's what they're literally doing. They're literally showing you how to lie and cover it up. That's what he just did. He just did a lie and sprinkled it with truth so he won't get caught. And if he is, I never said people died on January the 6th. Listen to him again.
His. In the days and weeks following the insurrection, 5 officers died. Officer Brian Sicknick, Officer Jeffrey Smith, Officer Howard Liebengood, Officer Gunther Hashida, and Officer Kyle DeFreitag. More than 100 others were injured, leaving physical and emotional scars. Former D.C. Metropolitan Police Officer Michael Fanone was there that day, there on the west front of the Capitol, battling the mob. He was dragged down the Capitol steps. He was tased by someone in the pro-Trump mob. He suffered a heart attack during the fighting. And in a detail that crystallizes the horror that unfolded on January 6th, Fanone recalls insurrectionists shouting, quote, "Kill him with his own gun."
Okay. He recalls it. Did any microphones pick it up? Those officers was wearing video cameras. Those officers was wearing video cameras. Those video cameras had microphones. Somebody tell me how come nobody recorded that, or that didn't be picked up on the microphone. That phrase, that statement. Why didn't nobody else pick up that statement? You got a camera right here. It's recording everything as you say. Why didn't anybody pick that up?
Despite having lived through that harrowing assault and living with the consequences of that trauma, Fanone has not stopped defending our democracy. He has sought to hold those responsible accountable, and he has an urgent message for the American people as the 2024 presidential campaign.
And his case was thrown out of court.
Campaign season gets underway. Fanone told HuffPost, quote, "Ultimately, you, the American voter, will be the last line of defense when it comes to preserving democracy as we know it and ensuring the peaceful transfer of power. And it's that serious." Joining me now in studio is Michael Fanone, former D.C. Metropolitan Police Officer, Courage for America Council member, and author of Hold the Line, The Insurrection and One Cop's Battle for America's Soul. Officer Fanone, I'm going to try to get through this.
You serious?
Thank you for what you did 3 years ago today.
Oh, Lord.
Tell me your thoughts on this 3rd anniversary.
We are still in the midst of the same fight that began on January 6th.
You serious?
In this country. And I think that it deserves every American's attention.
Donald Trump continues to defend the insurrectionists, as he did at a rally in Iowa last night. Listen to this.
Those J6 hostages going to jail for 20 years and 18 years and 12 doctors, lawyers, carpenters, electricians, truck drivers. It's one of the saddest things. It'll go down as one of the saddest things in the history of our country. And they went there to protest a rigged election.
I am so glad that President Trump actually sat there and came forward. These are hostages. Now, it's up to Republicans whether or not we're going to sit here and allow them to continue to depict conservatives as insurrectionists. First of all, I got into a debate with somebody, and this person told me that they can keep Donald Trump off the ballot. I said, well, hold it. Donald Trump has not been convicted. If they wanted to charge Donald Trump with insurrection, they should have charged him with that. They didn't. The rule of law is the rule of law, whether or not you like it, whether or not you don't. In order to disqualify someone, in order to disqualify them, you have to have a conviction. You have to prove that someone cheated. You have to prove someone cheated in order to strip them of their titles. You have to do a drug test. You just can't say, oh, we're going to just convict you. Why? Because we feel like it. And I'm going to take it back real quick, y'all, to the actual impeachment of President Trump. And all the rhetoric that they accuse President Trump of, he brought it up.
Constant drumbeat of heated language. Well, as I'm sure everyone watching expected, we need to show you some of their own words.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be.
There needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
You got to be ready to throw a punch. You have to be ready to throw a punch.
Donald Trump, I think you need to go back and punch him in the face.
That I thought he should have punched him in the face.
I feel like punching him.
I'd like to take him behind the gym if I were in high school. If we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him. No, I wish we were in high school, I could take him behind the gym.
I will go and take Trump out tonight.
Take him out now.
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and
peacefully protest the actual First Amendment.
Peaceful.
I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
Most people have no clue that in 2023, the best way to make money on Amazon is not with...
Please, get up in the face of some Congress people.
People will do what they do.
I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind, and you will pay the price.
We're going to go in there, we're going to...
This
this is just a warning to you Trumpers. Be careful. Walk lightly. And for those of you who are soldiers, make them pay.
If you had to be stuck in an elevator with either President Trump, Mike Pence, or Jeff Sessions, who would it be?
Does one of us have to come out alive?
And there's more.
I promise to fight every single day. One, I'm a fighter and I'm relentless, but I'm a fighter and I'm relentless. A fighter and I'm relentless. I will fight like hell.
But the way I see it now is that we pick ourselves up and we fight back. That's what I think it's all about. We stand up and we fight back. We do not back down. We do not compromise. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. You can either lie down, you can whimper, you can pull up in a ball, you can decide to move to Canada, or you can stand your ground and fight back. And that's what it's about.
And that's what they did. Weak Republicans backed down. Weak Republicans went and hid. Oh yes, they murdered Ashley Babbitt. If you like what you see, if you like the content, please think of going to Rumble or Mind of Jamal Black Southerner or Mind of Jamal Live on YouTube and sign up, subscribe, be a subscriber, donate and support the page. You got Cash Out, you got PayPal. Cash Out, PayPal. So if you like the content, consider donating.
Fight back, but we are going to fight back. We are not turning this country over to what Donald Trump has sold. We are just not. Look, people are upset and they're right to be upset.
Now we can whimper, we can whine, or we can fight back. Me, I'm here to fight back. I'm here to fight back because we will not forget. We do not want to forget. We will use that vision to make sure that we fight harder, we fight tougher, and we fight more passionately than ever. We still have...
Now I want y'all to pay attention to something. I want y'all to pay attention to something. If you know a Republican that tells you we ain't got time to protest, we got jobs and we got to work, tell them shut up and get off their behind. Tell them shut up, you don't want to hear it. The reason why we suffered losses, the reason why we are going through the mess we're going through today is because Republicans didn't want to stand up and be counted for as Trump supporters. Too many Republicans was worried about what their children think, what their grandchildren think, what their friends and family think. So they became the silent majority. I'm sorry, but the silent majority are open cowards. The silent majority is open cowards. There's just no other way to put it. Jamal, you just don't know. My baby won't let me see my grandbaby. My baby won't let me see my grandbaby if I let people know I'm a Trump supporter. If your child is comfortable with taking your grandchild from you and not seeing, that ain't the first time she done threatened not to talk to you and stomped her foot. I wish my child would be 30-some years old and tell me I can't see my grandkids because of who I voted for. I would slap her down to the floor. I would remind her who her daddy is. I would remind her with the quickness who her daddy is. Now, everybody knows Tucker Carlson broke down the narrative about January 6th. We all know Tucker Carlson did that on Fox, And they hated him for it. They hate and what he did to January 6th. They hated it. He exposed it. He showed it was a fraud. He showed that they had doctored stuff. They knew it. And they should have been arrested for it. People should have been arrested for the January 6th committee, how they lied. People went to jail because of the lie of the January 6th committee. And I'm sorry, every last one of them need to be called back in front of Congress and shown what actually happened. Every last one of them need to be showed.
Within hours of January 6th, literally hours, you began to hear that day described as a deadly insurrection, and not described by one news outlet or one politician, but in unison by all of them, almost like it was coordinated. A deadly insurrection. That's how history may record January 6th. But the tape that we reviewed from within the building on that day proves it was neither an insurrection nor deadly. Here it is.
January 6th, when an estimated 2,000 rioters breached the Capitol building, causing the deaths of 5 police officers.
Certain dates echo throughout history. December 7th, 1941. September 11th, 2001. And January 6th.
The mob beat officers with anything they had on them. Hockey stick, a flagpole, a fire extinguisher. Police officers died.
Donald Trump supporters who, of course, rioted and killed police officers.
By the evening of January 6th, the Democratic Party and its publicists in the national news media had settled on a description of what had happened that day. They distilled an enormous number of highly complex events that even now we don't fully understand, into a single emotionally laden political slogan, which they've repeated for years with remarkable discipline. January 6th, they said, was a deadly insurrection.
There was a deadly insurrection that the right wing is trying to cover up.
He incited a deadly insurrection.
Incited a deadly insurrection.
The violent, deadly insurrection on the Capitol 9 months ago, it was about white supremacy, in my view.
A deadly insurrection. Everything about that phrase is a lie. Very little about January 6th was organized or violent. Surveillance video from inside the Capitol shows mostly peaceful chaos. But the slogan worked. The term deadly carries enormous emotional power, which is why they used it. To prove the insurrection was deadly, propagandists pointed to the death of an officer called Brian Sicknick. The mob killed Officer Brian Sicknick. That's what they said. It was their single most powerful indictment of the January 6th protesters and of Donald Trump and of Republican voters nationally. They repeated that claim for years. They are still repeating it. At first, they told the country that Officer Sicknick was murdered with a fire extinguisher.
Officer Brian Sicknick died after being hit in the head with a fire extinguisher during the fight.
That story came from the New York Times, which is effectively the assignment editor for most of the rest of American media. It was a lie, untrue in any way. But only after that lie had hardened into conventional wisdom did the newspaper bother to retract it.
The New York Times has quietly retracted its story about the death of Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick.
The damage had been done. Brian Sicknick, himself a Trump voter, had been transformed without his consent into a political martyr of the left. His memory was shamelessly exploited by the incoming Biden administration. In February of 2021, Sicknick's body lay in state in the Capitol Rotunda, where a parade of unscrupulous politicians made use of it. Here's Joe Biden.
Breaking down the doors, trying to overturn an outcome of election, and killing several police officers in the meantime.
But Brian Sicknick should not be reduced to a prop for the political ambitions of the Democratic Party. He was a human being. The facts of his life matter, including how he died. To this day, media accounts describe Sicknick as someone who was, quote, slain on January 6th. The video we reviewed proves that is a lie. Here is surveillance footage of Sicknick walking in the Capitol after he was supposedly murdered by the mob outside. By all appearances, Sicknick is healthy and vigorous. He's wearing a helmet, so it's hard to imagine he was killed by a head injury. Whatever happened to Brian Sicknick was very obviously not the result of violence he suffered at the entrance to the Capitol. This tape overturns the single most powerful and politically useful lie the Democrats have told us about January 6th. And it was indeed a lie. The January 6th committee knew perfectly well that Brian Sicknick was walking normally through the Capitol after he was supposedly murdered by Trump supporters. And they know that because they saw this tape. We can be sure because the footage contains an electronic bookmark that is still archived in the Capitol's computer system.
I was there. I didn't go into the Capitol, but I was there. I was at January 6th. Man, that's not you, Jamal. Is that me? I'm just asking, is that me? Look like January 6th to me. Was I or was I not there? That's me. Had MAGA dad, Trump hat, Trump gloves, everything. They don't talk about that huge flag that was brought down. You see all these people? You see all these people? I was there and proud of it. And never will back down for it.
That means that investigators working for the Democratic Party reviewed this tape. They saw it, but they refused to release the tape to the public. Why? Because this tape would shatter the fraud they were perpetrating on the country. Because hiding the truth served their political interest. They lied about the police officer they claimed to revere. If they were willing to do that, then their dishonesty knew no limits.
And that was the second day. That was the second day showing when Tucker Carlson got the videos from Kevin McCarthy and he showed them and everybody got mad. Yep, that's right, Mr. Larson. I was interviewed by the FBI. I went to set up cameras and stuff outside. They didn't want to talk to me. But I said, okay, I'll talk to you a little bit. Remember, I played the phone number because the girl was trying to call and get in contact with me. Yep, I was there. So when I see people tell these lies and all this stuff about January the 6th, please. What we ought to talk about is what's going on at the border. What we ought to talk about is what's happening at the border right now and them trying to replace Americans with new voters. CNN interviewed Speaker of the House Johnson. And from what I heard, they got some new deal coming down that they worked out with Democrats to avoid a shutdown. Can people still stop crying? Can people stop crying about a government shutdown? The only way you feel a government shutdown is if the President of the United States target certain programs and certain agencies to feel the burden. When Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer shut the government down under President Trump did not have any agencies that shut down that harmed the American people. Do y'all remember that? Do you guys remember when President Trump and Nancy Pelosi, she won't even speaker yet, when Donald Trump said, I accept the responsibility for shutting down the government, and the government was shut down, and nobody felt it. The only people who felt it was government workers. How many of y'all remember that? How many of you all remember when the government was shut down under President Trump, the only people that suffered was government workers? How many people remember that? Do you remember that when under President Trump, when the government was shut down, the only people that felt it was government workers? Hopefully, if you guys, like I say, if you like the content, please feel kind to donate to the show. Use the sign up through subscribe, or you can generously donate through Cash App or PayPal. I remember that. I remember when the government shut down, and the only people they were interviewing that was crying was government workers. That one lady said she's gonna have to get dog food because she can't afford it. Why didn't you get a job? Truth be told, we need to cut 60% of all government workers around Washington, D.C., around on the other channel, around Washington, D.C. and others. What you mean around on other channels? What am I missing on another channel? Barack Obama personally targeted those World War II veterans. Barack Obama allowed illegal immigrants to protest inside, to hold a rally and protest inside the World War II memorial. But when the World War II veterans showed up, they put fences up. That is the choice of the president. The president runs the executive, the government. The president runs the government. Okay, you was talking to Queen Peckerwood. Okay, gotcha, Theodore. The only people who felt the government shut down was government workers. That was it. We as Republicans need to get rid of this fear of shutting the government down. The President of the United States, directs who can feel the pain. He purposely, Barack Obama, shut down the veterans from visiting the World War II memorial. And a lot of them are passing away. It's not many World War II veterans left, y'all. It's not. Think about it. Your pilots, people who flew aircraft in World War II, they're dead. Unless you was born in 1923 or 24 and joined the Army early, those guys over 100 years old, they're dead. All of you who are my age, 47 and 47, 48, 49, 50, do you realize all those World War II veterans, majority of them are dead? Now, what we have left is Vietnam era vets. They are veterans. They are veterans. But many of those veterans are the reason we got a lot of problems today. Drug abuse. They went over to Southwest Asia, started smoking, came back hippies, and hated America. A lot of those veterans came back from Vietnam and hated America. Oh, Miss Debbie Nelson, that's correct. Many Korean War veterans are dead. My dad was a Korean War veteran, passed away. Half of our vets from Vietnam are dead or dying from being sprayed with defoliants. Well, at the time, they was trying to kill that vegetation because our troops couldn't see. And many of them raised, like Joe Brandon said, yes, and they raised children that hated America. A lot of those hippies, because they were 18 and 19, they were being told sex and rock and roll, calming down, sex and rock and roll. There weren't older men to tell them better. These were 18 and 19 and 20-year-olders. Sometimes some of their NCOs and sergeants weren't even 30 years old. Not like World War II when you had men in their 30s and 40s. Some were principals. Ever since, and some people may not like this comment I'm about to make, ever since we went to an integrated army, instead of us integrating the army and focusing on beating our enemies, we integrated the army and started focusing on a specific group of soldiers. How can we make things better for them? How can we make them feel included? How can we make them feel thankful? That should have never been. They should have integrated the military and said, fight. That's it. A lot of the reason we're going through the problems we're going through is because people spend too much time trying to ensure everybody feels welcome. In the Marine Corps, they say everybody is a maggot equally. Don't matter if you're black, white, Native American, to that drill instructor, you are a maggot. To that drill sergeant in the Marine Corps, you are a maggot. but they're trying to replace white voters with this influx.
Speaker Mike Johnson. Speaker Johnson, thanks so much for being here. Welcome to the lead. Your first time as Speaker. So you're at the border today, and I presume you're seeing a very dire situation. Hardworking border agents, who can't do their jobs with what they have. They need more money. They need more colleagues. They need more beds for asylum seekers. They need more funding. How come the House has not yet touched this $14 billion supplemental request from the Biden administration? The White House is hammering you on it. Why not take it up and help these individuals?
Jake, good to be with you. Sorry it's taken so long to come on with you since I became Speaker. Listen, this is a catastrophe down here. And what the White House is proposing is more money to...
First of all, Mike Johnson needs to realize whose show he's going on. Nancy Pelosi didn't go on Fox News. Nancy Pelosi did not go on Fox News. Nancy Pelosi only went to the news agencies that would give her fairness, give her what she wanted. She went to MSNBC, she went to CBS, she went to NBC. She didn't go to Fox News. Why is that? This is my biggest complaint about Republicans. We act like we got to go chase people down. We need to make sure we maintain our Republican base and our Republican Party. Jake Tapper should not get Mike Johnson. And in 5 minutes, we're going to watch him for 5 minutes, and you're going to see why Mike Johnson should have never went on his show.
process and allow more illegals into the country. We need to do the opposite of that. And this is, you don't need to take my word for it. Listen to the Deputy Chief of the U.S. Border Patrol, who was with us last night, and he told us in his own words, he said, it's as if I'm at an open fire hydrant. I don't need more buckets to dump the water. He said, I need to turn the flow off. That's why we're here today, Jake. We had 64 House Republicans here representing 26 states and 1 U.S. territory, everybody from California to Maryland, Michigan to Florida, because every state in America is a border state right now. This catastrophe can come to an end if the Biden administration will do its job, and they've refused to do it. They're doing the opposite.
So the $14 billion, there are, you're right, 1,600 asylum officers that would be part of that to speed up processing of asylum claims. That's what you're talking about. But there also would be 1,300 more Border Patrol agents to work alongside the 20,200, and also funding to hire 1,000 Custom and Border Protection officers with a focus on counter fentanyl. So it's not all, in fact, most of it is not related to processing asylum seekers. A lot of it has to do with what you're talking about.
Jake, the president should come to the border. What an idea that would be. He should talk to the Border Patrol agents who are down here.
I think he went last year, just FYI.
Yeah, well, he went for a photo op. He should come and spend a couple of days like we have to be with the people here on the ground who are fighting this war on the border. That's effectively what it is. We have so many people, Jake, 7 million people have come into the country since Biden walked into the Oval Office. And that's a low estimate. Most people believe it may be twice that high. We have nearly 2 million gotaways that we know about, not to mention those who evaded capture. Over 300 known terrorists apprehended at the border trying to come in. We don't know how many evaded capture and detection. They're in the country, potentially setting up terrorist cells everywhere. Fentanyl is the #1 cause of death for Americans aged 18 to 49, flowing over the border like an open sewer. Human trafficking is the #1 business of the cartels here. Estimated, we were told today, Jake, one of the local sheriffs here said that they believe that the cartels are making $32 million a week on trafficking human beings into the U.S. That's over $1.5 billion a year. Transnational criminal organizations, and the Biden administration seems to care nothing about it. Remember, they could issue executive orders and fix this overnight. You could reinstate the Remain in Mexico policy. You could stop the catch and release policy that the Biden administration insists upon. You could do some very important things, but they refuse to do it.
So just one note on the terrorist thing. There aren't hundreds of known terrorists getting into the country. There are people whose identity have been flagged on a certain database. I just don't want people out there thinking that 200 members of Hamas have flown into the country and we don't even know about it. It's a little bit more complicated. I'm not saying that it's not serious. I'm just saying these aren't necessarily terrorists.
There you go.
That's the terrorist watch list, Jake. Right. It takes quite a bit to make that list, okay? These are dangerous people who are coming into the country, and we have hardened criminals who are coming from all these countries around the world. They're opening prisons and sending them here. We saw it today, Jake. We know what's happening. We're talking to the people on the ground. So these are not Republican talking points. This is reality.
You see that? You see what Jake Tapper just did. Jake Tapper basically just undermined everything he said. Just so they know, people are really not from terrorist watch list. Yes, they are.
One note on the terrorist thing. There aren't hundreds of known terrorists getting into the country. There are people whose identity have been flagged on a certain database. I just don't want people out there thinking that they're,
There are people whose identification has been flagged. What's the database?
Members of Hamas have flown into the country and we don't even know about it. It's a little bit more complicated. I'm not saying that it's not serious. I'm just saying these aren't necessarily terrorists.
That's the terrorist watch list, Jake.
Right.
It takes quite a bit to make that list. Okay, these are dangerous people who are coming to the catch and release policy that the Biden administration insists upon. You could do some very important things, but they refuse to do it.
So just one note on the terrorist thing. There aren't hundreds of known terrorists getting into the country. There are people whose identity have been flagged on a certain database. I just don't want people out there.
Okay, I want y'all to realize this. I want y'all to realize this, okay? This man just said there are people that have been flagged. I want you to hear this. There are people that have been flagged on a certain database. What's the database? The International Terrorist Database. He literally just tried to set up for a lie. Did you hear him? I mean, this is a bold-faced lie.
Very important things, but they refuse to do it.
So just one note on the terrorist thing. There aren't hundreds of known terrorists getting into the country. There are people whose identity have been flagged on a certain database. I just don't want people out there thinking that they're, 200 members of Hamas have flown into the country and we don't even know about it. It's a little bit more complicated. I'm not saying that it's not serious. I'm just saying these aren't necessarily terrorists.
That's the terrorist watch list, Jake.
Right.
It takes quite a bit to make that list. Okay, these are dangerous.
That's the list. The terrorist watch list. Did you see this? Do y'all understand? Do you understand what Jake Tapper literally just did? Do you understand why CNN sucks? Listen to this.
There aren't hundreds of known terrorists getting into the country.
Fix this overnight. You could reinstate the.
Listen to this.
You could stop the catch and release policy that the Biden administration insists upon. You could do some very important things, but they refuse to do it.
So just one note on the terrorist thing. There aren't hundreds of known terrorists getting into the country. There are people whose identity have been flagged on a certain database. I just don't want people out there thinking that they're, 200 members of Hamas have flown into the country and we don't even know about it. It's a little bit more complicated.
Hey, Jake. What's that database called? Huh, Jake? Hey, Jake Tapper, what is that database called?
I'm not saying that it's not serious. I'm just saying these aren't necessarily terrorists.
That's the terrorist watch list, Jake.
Right.
It takes quite a bit to make that list. Okay, these are dangerous people who are.
He said it's a group of people that's on a database. What is the database called? The terrorist watch list. And he said it like it was nothing. You see what I mean by how the media lie and how they dial it to try to get you to accept the lie? One more time. Listen to him.
You could do some very important things, but they refuse to do it.
So just one note on the terrorist thing. There aren't hundreds of known terrorists getting into the country. There are people whose identity have been flagged on a certain database. I just don't want people out there thinking that they're, 200 members of Hamas have flown into the country and we don't even know about it. It's a little bit more complicated. I'm not saying that it's not serious. I'm just saying these aren't necessarily terrorists.
Nigga, please.
That's the terrorist watch list, Jake.
Right.
It takes quite a bit to make that list. Okay, these are dangerous people who are coming to the country, and we have hardened criminals who are coming from all these countries around the world. They're opening. That's the terrorist watch list, Jake.
Right.
It takes quite a bit to make that list. Okay, these are dangerous people.
I'm not saying that it's not serious. I'm just saying these aren't necessarily terrorists.
That's the terrorist watch list, Jake.
Right.
It takes quite a bit to make that list. Okay, these are dangerous people who are coming to the country, and we have hardened criminals who are coming. That's over $1.5 billion a year. Transnational criminal organizations, and the Biden administration seems to care nothing about it. Remember, They could issue executive orders and fix this overnight. You could reinstate the Remain in Mexico policy. You could stop the catch and release policy that the Biden administration insists upon. You could do some very important things, but they refuse to do it.
So just one note on the terrorist thing. There aren't hundreds of known terrorists getting into the country. There are people whose identity have been flagged on a certain database. I just don't want people out there thinking that 200 members of Hamas have flown into the country.
Nigga, please. Nigga, please. Nigga, please. Nigga, please. Nigga,
Nigga, please.
We don't even know about it. It's a little bit more complicated.
Jake,
I'm not saying that it's not serious. I'm just saying these aren't necessarily terrorists.
That's the terrorist watch list, Jake. Right. It takes quite a bit to make that list. Okay, these are
there aren't hundreds of known terrorists getting into the country. There are people whose identity have been flagged on a certain database. I just don't want people out there thinking that 200 members of Hamas have flown into the country and we don't even know about it. It's a little bit more complicated. I'm not saying that it's not serious. I'm just saying these aren't necessarily terrorists.
That's the terrorist watch list, Jake.
Right.
It takes quite a bit to make that list. Okay, these are dangerous people who are coming into the country.
Jake Tapper, this is for Jake Tapper. I just want you to know this is for you.
Is a moron. M-O-E-R-O-N. Moron. Is a moron. M-O-E-R-O-N. Moron. Is a moron. M-O-E-R-O-N. Moron.
Jake Tapper. This man literally said they were just caught on. They was literally just caught on a database. What's the database called? The terrorist watch list. These people will do whatever it takes to cover Joe Biden. They will do whatever it takes to cover Joe Biden and his schemes because they got Joe Biden. They got Joe Biden hand in the cookie jar. Joe Biden hand has been caught in the cookie jar. This man should be impeached, and Republicans need to get impeaching him and impeaching him now. This man is a crook. This man is a shyster, and he's still in power. See, what I showed you was Jake Tapper running cover for Joe Biden. What I showed you all earlier, MSNBC running coverage from Jake Tapper, from Joe Biden. I just want you to know, you stood in line for democracy. But he was the same one that was calling for defund the police and talking about crackhead, fentanyl, George Floyd. You know, St. George Floyd. Of the fentanyl Methodist Baptist Church. With speakers, deacon, another type of guy. And minister, come on, man. With the international choir, I can't breathe, man. I can't breathe, man. I can't breathe, man. Oh, man, come on, man. I'm a good guy. I can't breathe. George Floyd. Joe Biden has officially his hands in a cookie jar. But remember, what that number about Republicans who believe it was mostly violent, those Republicans who believe Donald Trump is mostly at fault, don't forget them. Don't forget them.
begin this first Sunday morning of the new year, kicking off a critical month of January in Washington and the start of primary season in this election year. Congress returns to work tomorrow morning, facing 2 government funding deadlines to pass a budget for the fiscal year or face a government shutdown within 2 weeks' time. Republicans are pushing for a standalone bill to secure the southern border, while Democrats want to attach aid to Ukraine as one of the conditions for any new border legislation, as the U.S. national debt surpasses $34 trillion, with interest on that debt alone at nearly $750 billion. Meanwhile, a world away, Taiwan will hold its presidential election next weekend on January 13th, amidst the start of the U.S.'s election season as well, now 8 days away from the Iowa caucuses happening on January 15th. Will the Chinese Communist Party interfere in these elections? Former President Trump is on the campaign trail in the Midwest this weekend, looking to secure his 3rd Republican presidential nomination as the 45th president continues to hold a commanding lead over the GOP field in primary polls. The House will also resume an impeachment inquiry against President Biden in the coming weeks over allegations of influence peddling and bribery, as the House Judiciary Committee begins the process of holding his son, Hunter Biden, in contempt of Congress this upcoming Wednesday for failing to appear for a closed-door deposition last month. Hunter Biden is also set to make his first court appearance this Thursday in Los Angeles on federal tax charges. A busy week and a busy month. Joining me right now with all of that at stake for the nation this month and this year is House Judiciary Committee Chairman, Congressman Jim Jordan. Mr. Chairman, good to see you this morning. Happy New Year, and thank you for being here.
You bet. Good to be with you. Happy New Year to you as well.
So you're back at it, and you've got a busy session here. Talk to us about the priorities, and let's first get into the budget issues where we could see a government shutdown within 2 weeks. Are you prepared for that?
Well, I think the number one priority is the border. I mean, we're on pace to get to 12 million illegal migrants coming into the country in the Biden presidency. I mean, that's equivalent to the entire population of the state of Ohio. And we're not a small state. We're the 7th largest state. So that's the magnitude of this problem. And so I think that's priority number one. We got 2 funding bills, as you indicated, January 19th, February 2nd, when government funding, those are due. And then, of course, we got the impeachment of Secretary Mayorkas and the impeachment inquiry into President Trump. President Biden. So we got a busy month coming up, and we're gonna tackle all those. But I do think the border situation. It's why we were down there this past week with over 60 members there this week. I do think that's priority number one. When you have something of this size, this magnitude, and it's been done intentionally. I always say this is willful, this is deliberate, this is intentionally done with the policy changes the Biden administration put in. So we're focused as Republicans on getting that fixed. And if Democrats think it's more important to have an open border than to fund the government, that's their problem.
So you're willing to take this to the mat and allow the government to shut down unless he has some new border legislation then?
This is a metabolism killer, this is a metabolism killer, and this is a metabolism killer. If you're over 40 and are running on the treadmill endlessly and eating salads all day just to lose a few pounds, just stop and listen to what I'm about to tell you. In your 20s, it's easy, right? Put on muscle easily, we're fit, we got tons of stamina, tons of time sometimes. But as you get older, you may not be able to lose weight as quickly or as easily, you may not be able to put muscle on so easily, and you may think or may have been told that there's nothing you can do about it. Well, that isn't true.
This is how to get in shape fast. Dr. Drew here. When it comes to cardio, it's true that it burns calories, mainly in the form of carbohydrates free in the blood. But here's the deal. After you work up a sweat, your body tends to replace those calories with your next meal. Steady state cardio can actually release cortisol. Cortisol, of course, is your body's stress hormone, and it's not what you're looking for. It could lead to further muscle breakdown. If you don't like doing steady state cardio, don't do it. Number one, it's not a great way to lose weight. And number two, you're going to hate it. If you hate it and it's not working, you will eventually give up.
Dr. Drew and my wife Susan here, we want to show you something.
You've probably seen this guy all over your feed claiming that cutting carbs isn't necessary for weight loss. Now, I know it sounds too good to be true, but let me tell you, there's more to this than meets the eye.
The science of weight loss was cracked a long time ago. It's not a trend, it's facts. Following all those like trendy fad diets, all those trending workouts that you see online is literally a waste of time. There's already a proven, research-backed way to lose weight and keep it off.
I decided to delve into this topic and do some research. Turns out this guy is a celebrity trainer who's gained a massive following for challenging mainstream advice. He claims that what we've been told about weight loss is wrong, completely wrong. I've witnessed thousands of
I think we have to, because I think that's what the American people demand. I mean, right now, polling shows 8 out of 10 Americans know that this is a crisis on our southern border. So we've got to deal with that. That's, again, why Speaker Johnson took